Dan Schuardt.
G'day, mate. How are you?
Good, man. Welcome to Not Your Thoughts.
Thanks so much for having me. It's a cool experience to be able to have a little podcast going in my gym, and I'm stoked to be here.
Thank you for having me. So I appreciate it very much, man. What's the ecological approach to jiu-jitsu, and should anybody be caring about this?
That's a great question. Great way to open up. So the ecological approach to jiu-jitsu essentially uses various methods of teaching jiu-jitsu that doesn't involve showing direct techniques. So you use things like constraint-based learning and all these sorts of other sorts of things. So a practical idea might be to really well illustrate the goals of jiu-jitsu in a very broad sense. So there are some good things about ecological jiu-jitsu for sure. I think it does a really good job of explaining the immediate goals of positions and things like this. But it has some integral issues, I would say, because of the lack of transfer of direct information to your students.
Isn't that essentially what it's, I don't want to use the term attacking, but from what I've gathered, yeah, it seems to have a qualm with drilling. Am I understanding that correctly? I'm not grasping how information's transferred, if not. Like,
Sure.
I understand learning is one thing, and you learn through the experience. I'm not understanding why guiding the learning seems to be an issue.
Sure. So if they still do guide the learning, so say for example you wanted to teach a Toriander guard pass or a bullfighter, for example, instead of being like, okay, you're going to come out, control the ankles, misdirect your partner, get to your hips and get to your partner's hip and knee, and then run the hips out and away and stabilize the guard pass. Instead of showing somebody this, it'll kind of illustrate the point that when you're trying to do jiu-jitsu, you're trying to, they have some fancy way of saying it, something like, surpass the periphery to control the center mass, to isolate a limb, and then go into strangulations and breaking, which is a really fancy way of saying pass the guard, control the guy's chest, and then isolate the arm or leg and submit him, right? So if you wanted to teach a Toriander pass, for example, as an ecological learning setting, because I did actually look into this quite a little bit, because I was very interested in the transfer of information. My old friend Kit Dale, back in the day, he was a really big proponent of this style of learning, of playing games to help you get better at jiu-jitsu. And so a game might be, okay, understand that if your partner's feet are facing you and are between your knees and or are able to face your body, that's a bad thing because their legs are dangerous. So if you say, okay, let's play a game where our goal is to point our partner's feet away from us, and I want to try and get as close to his body as possible. The argument essentially for ecological in this setting, for example, is that your partner or the person doing the drill, the student, will find movement solutions to accomplish this task that suit the conditions. So if you have a positive outcome where you get your chest on their chest and their feet are pointing away from you, that's a win in the game.
Right. Yep.
So if I say to you, control the guy's feet and don't let them point at you and try to go forwards, assuming that you do well in the game, you're going to probably find movement solutions that are pretty closely approximate a Toriander guard pass.
Right. Yeah.
Right? So it's not to say that you can't transfer information, because I know what I want you to try and accomplish, and I can build games that make this game easier or harder for you. So for example, one such way to do this might be, okay, the person on the bottom, your goal is just to try to keep pointing your feet at your partner. That's what the person on the bottom's job is.
Yeah.
Right? You could add in elements where the bottom player is also trying to off-balance you, or they're trying to do all these other things, try and push them around with your feet. And when you add these different constraints, you can generate different outcomes for your student and get into good solutions. So it's like the premise behind it is not bad.
It just sounds like drilling to me, though. And that's why I'm not understanding why does drilling seem like this issue?
Sure. So the gripe is with static drilling, I believe. So when you think about like people just throwing legs side to side with no context and just trying to get close, like if I said, okay, I'm going to go left and right and left and right and left and right, and then hope to get a guard pass, like this is like with no resistance and no context, this is probably not going to generate me being a better guard passer. I'm just going to learn to shuffle my feet left and right. So if I show a move and I say, do A, B, C, D, E, and then you pass the guard, that's not really that good of an instructor, right? So when I teach a Toriander guard pass, for example, I might say, okay, opening idea, we're going to come out in good stance because we're trying to deny him the ability to connect his feet to my body. we're going to come out and make C grips on my partner, and we're going to shuffle out to an angle on my partner.
Yeah.
If we feel our partner try to get his feet back in front of us, we're going to look to use his momentum to offset his feet and pace him out to the side, and then we're going to crash in, and we're going to try and win control of our partner's knee and control of our partner's hip on the far side.
Yes.
From here now, when he frames us, we're going to bloat our posture, turn our shoulders, and run the guy's hips out and away from us, enabling us to stabilize a guard pass. So what I've done is I've explained kind of subtly the underlying principles of what I want you to accomplish. Don't let the guy connect his feet to you.
Yeah.
Misdirect your partner and get closer to your partner's center mass where you can try to deny him the ability to get his feet back in front and then run the hips out and away and stabilize the guard pass. So in this way, every move you teach in jiu-jitsu is a movement solution to a problem, right? So the whole point of the constraints-based learning is about having your students find movement solutions that suit the problem.
Yeah, because the idea is, correct me if I'm wrong, that's the only point where you actually learn, is the experience of doing it.
Typically, yeah. Like you can get some, like in the podcast between Greg Saunders and Big Dan, kind of conceded that like as a beginner especially, you can find some improvement in knowledge and understanding by watching great people do the move. There's some argument that this kind of nullifies the whole point of Ecological by watching people do it and rather than just experiencing for yourself because of various things we'll get into if you want. But
I do want to, like, I guess for that podcast I found incredibly, somewhat frustrating in that it felt like more a semantic battle, and then there was some ad hominem attacks or what seemed like that in terms of like, I'm not having a jab at anyone, but it seemed to devolve into you're just not getting me, no, you're just not getting me, and then it became real circular for a solid like 20, 30 minutes at that.
Yeah, easily 20, 30 minutes, or maybe probably more.
Yeah, so I guess they started arguing about what ideal means. I think the point that what stood out to me was they're talking about beginners. They're talking about beginners, but it seemed like Dan was talking about more of a high level where you need that information to start tweaking and refining your game. That seemed to make more sense to me than just talking about. To be honest, and the reason I'm choking up now is because I just did not understand the points that were trying to be made, and I don't think the people in it understood the points trying to be made. So
sure. So as I understand it, as somebody that like did look a bit into Ecological, I think like Dan is amazing as a grappler, obviously, and so is Tom in his own right. And Greg has produced some good grapplers, like DeAndre Corbet, very, very good grappler, for example, and he works under this Ecological approach. So it's not as though it's not capable of creating really good people. There is just like the way information was being conveyed by Greg, I would say, was hard to comprehend for somebody who doesn't really have a understanding of the literature that he's talking about.
So there is literature, because, sorry, that was another thing, was there was a lot of reference to the studies. I would have loved to hear, we got 300 people, the experiment was X, we, accounted for blah, blah, blah. They didn't really dive into the actual research that's being discussed.
Yeah. And so what ended up happening was you have a situation where, like Greg is talking about studies based on ecological learning, not necessarily in the context of jiu-jitsu, but in like movement solution finding in complex continuous games. So in complex continuous games, the studies support the idea that ecological approach of getting put in a position and then finding movement solutions based on the surroundings is a really effective way of learning, right? Which is an appropriate thing to point out, right? The problem is that the comparison is between like, oh, here's the perfect way to do a move with no context, which kind of doesn't exist in jiu-jitsu, versus let's get in this position and play. So, as I understand, like, this is the main thing that he's talking about. So when you compare that type of learning in a whatever it means to be a complex continuous game in the settings that they talked about in the studies, the literature that Greg's citing, whatever that looks like is what he's talking about.
Yeah.
And so then in those settings, those are the results that he's talking about.
Okay.
And so a lot of the time, a lot of semantics are around the idea that Dan would be like, oh, well, what about all these world champions?
Yeah.
This looks like results to me. You know what I mean? Which is right in the context that he's talking about. However, like what it doesn't account for is things like maybe that guy just fucking crushed it on the day.
Yeah, true.
You know, like maybe that guy happened to be like, maybe 30% stronger than everybody. You know what I mean? Like there's all these confounding factors that relate to results in combat sports.
Yeah.
And also just like generally, like you can also be lucky. Let's face it. Somebody can be really injured. You could be in great nick. All these different confounding factors is what Greg is getting frustrated about when he's like, no, you don't understand the results.
But I feel like the burden of proof is on Greg in this argument to prove that drilling is not having that. Or is the burden of proof on the world champions to say this is specifically? Because no one's saying drilling is the thing. What I understood was hey, this is incorporated into the context of the whole thing, which is why it works. And then Greg going, no, and then a lot of the word they used or got caught up on was efficient or effective or efficient.
Yeah, correct or correct technique or
ideal
technique.
was the word. I don't get why we can't have a concept of like, meta, most effective at the time available. Yeah, there's an ideal for that time. And I believe what Dan's point was, and then you branch off what's most effective. And then they got bogged down in this ideal doesn't exist and this and that. I'm like, you can have the most ideal at this point in time.
Yeah.
And then branch off that. So,
and also context, like, so for example, like the gripe is, okay, like what's the perfect way to do an armbar, for example, as one of the discussion points.
yeah.
So in that setting, depending on the circumstance, there's probably a really good solution. And this is the thing that you need to understand about this like correct technique is if you understand the variables and you understand why this or that, and you illustrate that in your understanding of teaching the technique, you know what I mean? Then in those moments, you're able to create a pretty good understanding of what is like a really excellent movement solution for the problem, right?
Yeah.
So, like for example, like you talk about like if you have a full juji where you have your legs one over the head, one under the armpit, and your feet crossed, for example, this is a really good position to hold the guy down and keep him stuck. Okay, and maybe you have a movement solution and you can say, all right, this is the perfect armbar, and I take him over this hip and I get to my braking pressure. But if the guy on the bottom is doing a reaction that doesn't suit this movement solution anymore, that's no longer the perfect armbar.
Of course, yeah.
So then as a coach, my job is to convey, hey, when this happens, I need to be factoring this in and maybe get ready to transition to XYZ attack, right? So if I come out and say, this is the correct armbar all the time, then I suck as a coach.
Right? I don't, is anyone doing that? And that's why this concept feels very in the cloud. I'm really trying to ground it. And sorry, his name's Greg?
Greg, yeah.
I felt like Greg was getting frustrated as well. I'm getting frustrated as a viewer. Dan's frustrated. Everyone's just like angry right now. But and apologies if I'm not understanding you, but I guess I want to know what behaviorally changes. Let's say you right now take on Pete's advice completely. What do you change in your teaching style on the ground? Because I feel like you're doing everything anyway.
So I believe that the main difference, and there is some rationale to this, is that like when you are a coach and you're trying to convey information, a lot of the time, simply learning pieces and having them like fed to your students isn't always the most effective transfer of information. So, like, of course, like when you learn in school and like through that pedagogy, or however you say it, right? Like that learning method of like getting in and, being shown stuff, practicing that stuff, work examples, like it can work for sure. There's a lot of merit to the idea that like creating aha moments. So when you create aha moments and like clicks for the guy in the setting and they kind of go, oh, I get this concept now. That's what is important.
A pathway was made, a neural pathway was established, yeah.
So a lot of the time when somebody finds something for themselves that works well, you retain a lot of information in this method, okay? So there's a level of like, okay, it's really valuable to show my movement solutions that I've learned from the best people in the world, right? which is kind of Dan's main contention, that like if I'm not sharing and sharing my information, my movement solutions with my team, then how are we going to get better as a sport? If you are being put in a position where you have to find a solution for yourself, and I'm just kind of steering you towards my solution, the argument is that like you're going to learn it better if you find it yourself.
All right.
But I think at the same time, you can create this condition a lot. Okay, so I was actually talking to PJ Barch when I was in Kazakhstan recently. He does this really interesting thing where instead of going drilling and then positional sparring, he'll a lot of time go positional spar in the position that he wants you to try and create solutions in. He'll watch you fuck stuff up basically, and then go, okay, check out this. And they go, oh shit, that's a nice solution for this problem.
That I had, yeah.
Yeah. So then when they try it again, now they have this new information to try and draw from and kind of lean into PJ's movement solution, and then they can get the grasp on this connection.
Yeah, yeah.
So then it's like when you learn the problem first, when you experience the problem, and then get given the solution, there's probably a lot of the same aha moments that you can feed to somebody rather than being like, here's a solution, now go figure out how it fits in the problem.
Right, that's, yeah. That was my aha moment right there, yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. So, like, I think if you don't teach in a way that identifies the problems that you're going to face, then ecological is probably a really good method. But I think if you structure your information as a coach where you are incorporating the problem into your solution as you're explaining it,
Contextualize it, yeah.
exactly, create context, then you can start to get things going, right? But I think if you're just like, oh, here's the perfect knee cut, probably that's shit. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah. I guess one last thought on it, I'd say, do you reckon Pete would say, so in the scenario where
Greg.
we've,
Greg, you mean?
apologies, I said Pete earlier as well.
Sorry, fuck Greg.
Fuck Greg.
Fuck Eco Bros. No,
Fuck Pete. Let's say I'd be curious what his take would be as well. 2 white belts, or not even white belts, competing. One of them has a coach in their ear while they're competing. The other one doesn't. Who's going to learn? Who's going to, learn quicker? Because to me, I think Greg's point is correct, but it's like, you'd probably get to where you need to go. I just think it's going to take a lot longer because you're not being guided. So, I'd want to see that experiment being run.
That would be really interesting. I think that a lot of the time when you are cornering somebody, you can kind of get like interesting elements of, as a coach, when you've got a student competing, for example, a lot of the time, if you try to call for particular moves, you're probably going to fuck them up.
Right, yeah.
Like, unless you speak the same language and the guy understands exactly what I'm talking about, it's a lot harder to be like, oh, you're in this position. You need to set up for your Kimura grip on the far side and blah, 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 blah. Sometimes it can be as simple as keep his far shoulder flat.
Yeah. Watch the prop or something.
Right, exactly. So instead of being like, oh, you need to work for this berimbolo, it's probably like a case of like looking for back exposure, just thinking about like a concept rather than hit this technique. So that's something that I do when I'm coaching. Instead of just thinking about like, oh, what move am I going to go for? It's more like, okay, if the guy's passing the guy's guard, I'm going to say, all right, start off setting a partner's feet, misdirection, this type of thing. Like, not exactly like, oh yeah, go and hit this Torianda pass. Think about what the actual thing is that they need to accomplish in order for that move to be successful.
Yeah. And in that moment, they need to see the move, that the attack they're going to go for. You can kind of guide them somewhat there, but
exactly. If they have no idea what move I'm trying to get them to understand, it's lost. And honestly, by me yelling it out, if they don't know what I'm talking about and I'm yelling shit at them, and they're like, what is coach talking about?
Yeah. And now there's a whole other layer while they're just getting pummeled.
Correct. Yeah. So if they don't know what I'm talking about and I'm yelling shit at them, that I just make them worse.
Right.
I'd be better off saying nothing probably. But when I spoke to John about this when I was in Texas, John was saying that the most important, most relevant stuff you can call as a corner in a match, 2 things: time and the score.
Yes, bro. Yeah.
That means that piece of information is much more valuable to most athletes than what you think they should probably do, because they're their own athlete and they should have some good solutions. If you've prepared them for a match properly, they know what to do.
Yeah, yeah.
But with time, you know how much risk you can afford to take. And with the score, you know the exact situation of the match. Maybe they think they've gotten points and they're going to start coasting. But if they didn't get awarded points for a move or whatever the fuck else, they need to know that.
Yeah.
That's much more relevant than, oh, dude, go for this armbar. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you know you're down and you have 2 minutes to work, you got like down 2 points, you got 2 minutes to work, you better think about a way to get back those 2 points.
Yeah. 30 seconds left, fucking guns blazing.
30 seconds to go and you're down 10 points. That's important
Go for the
information.
neck.
You need to get a finish. That's what that tells.
Yeah.
That's what that tells you.
That's valuable, man.
Very valuable. I thought I got so many good gems from training with John. Like tactically, technically, lots of amazing stuff. There's a reason they're the top team in the world, right? Like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why I travel halfway around the world to go and learn from them.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's through Allione as well. Is that what's the relationship with Allione? Have you been with them for a while?
So, Allione definitely helped facilitate a really big shift in my career. They've been like instrumental in getting me overseas for competition, for training. But I started working with them after the first AIGA trials. So, in the first AIGA, I think it was like maybe September of 24, does that sound right? No, 23. September, I think, August or September of 23. I started working with them, and so I went to Kazakhstan to compete in the AIGA trials for Team Allione. Basically, my friend Kamal was like, we need a heavyweight who can leg lock people, and I think you're the guy. And I'm like, I might be the guy. And so, because like ultimately when you go to Kazakhstan, a lot of the guys are really good wrestlers. And like, if you think about how to beat a wrestler, probably you want to be able to be really good off your back and entangle their legs.
Oh, because they're going to drop you, so
They're going to
get ready for the drop.
Just assume you're going to get taken
Yeah,
down against this crazy Russian dude.
Right, yeah.
So that's why they sent me in, and had a good performance, kind of put on a pretty good show, had 2 first-round heel hooks. And yeah, after that, Allione were like, let's line something up.
You are the guy.
The guy. But yeah, so no, they're an amazing team. They really support a lot of really good up-and-coming athletes. A lot of Australians as well are really in the mix with Allione as well. So yeah, that's really exciting.
Yeah. Well, the jiu-jitsu community's become just that, a community. There's so much happening in it. It's its own world, essentially, at this point.
For sure, yeah. And I think like, yeah, just the way I've been able to travel and train, it's really changed the game for me. So, but yeah, actually, it was funny. Like, I went to Texas maybe 2 months before AIGA happened. So I went there the first time, and pretty much my missus made me go out there because I lost to this guy, Josh Saunders. He's a gorilla of a human.
Yeah.
Hate that guy. No, he's lovely.
It's a love-hate relationship.
I've come around a bit. I used to be like, fuck that guy.
Well,
No,
isn't it because he
he's all right.
shot up relatively quick? Is that a part of his kind of branding, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah. Like, there's no secret. The guy just works really hard.
Okay.
From what I can tell.
And he's good, yeah.
And he's also fucking huge.
Yeah, there you go. That might help.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
But nah, the guy's a jet. But yeah, so I lost to him for the second time. Basically, I lost to him in ADCC trials. I lost a close ref decision, which was devastating, frankly. And then
I heard the context on that, on your roll or die, but yeah.
yeah, it was rough. It was really rough. I split my head open and all sorts of shit.
Oh,
but
shit. Yeah.
so close, but not close enough. Should have just got good. That would have been the trick. If I was good at jiu-jitsu, maybe that would have worked.
Fair enough. Here we are, but yeah.
Yeah, we're getting there. But yeah, in any case, after that, I went to train in Texas and met John and the guys, and was fortunate enough to get into Roca to train with the pro team there as well.
Wow, man.
So I'm truly blessed, and yeah. After that, yeah, everything started to get really, really amazing, and so that was my first trip there, and then after that, Allione really supported me, helping me get back out there and really increase my level, and now I get to get all that experience, and it helped me to get to ADCC, and John and Gordon and the guys, like, they pushed me a lot to really overcome a lot of like mental hurdles that I was facing to come out and have a good performance. So I didn't fucking win ADCC, obviously, because Kyden's really good, turns out.
Yeah.
And but no, to be out there competing and have Gordon in my corner, literally, it was funny as he actually taught me a technique mid-match to escape from Kynan's chest-to-chest half guard, and I was like, holy shit, that fucking worked. That's crazy.
Like, thanks, man.
Thanks, God.
Shit, man.
But nah, so it was pretty surreal. And but yeah, so a lot of this is through the support of my team here at Precision. They've been really patient with me. Like I was away like 4 months out of 12 last year.
Fuck, that's
That's a lot. So yeah, so they've been very patient with me. So I'll spend a bit of time at the start of the year here developing them and kind of giving back to them. But it's been really cool to be able to like bring back the best jiu-jitsu in the world. And obviously I have a great coach here in Australia with Lockie Giles. But yeah, between Lockie and John's teaching, like I kind of have this kind of interesting, unique style, which I am able to bring to the team, and yeah, trying to fly the flag for Australia on the world stage and all this sort of fun stuff. So
there's definitely a patriotism, and maybe because there is, again, really appreciate you coming on to this, but that's the beauty of the jits community as well. That I think because there's a proximity to you, there's almost like a pride. I was like, that's. Yes, you know what I mean? So there's something about that. And obviously Alion kind of investing in you.
For sure, yeah.
I think it's awesome just to see it play out, man.
Yeah, I always thought it was really interesting. Like when I was maybe like a purple belt, I went and competed at Worlds in 2017. And that was like my first big international competition. And I remember before that, it would always be like, oh, my team versus their team and all this sort of shit in Australia. And then when I went to the world stage, I was like, wow, actually, I don't give a fuck if this person's from a team down the road from me. Like literally my direct competition. When we're on the world stage, it's Australia versus the world. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
So that's kind of been a really big driving factor. So now like anybody Australian who's out there doing the damn thing, they've got my respect and I'll fly their flag for sure. So
yeah.
No, that's the cool thing about Australia. Like got such a good level of like mateship and support for each other and pride and all these things.
Yeah, I feel like though there's an element of different schools as well in Australia. Do the gyms, or Melbourne, let's talk about, do all gyms interface, or is there certain, I feel like there's some type of branches that, speaking from ignorance though, is there some form of seclusion, or is it relatively open in your experience?
I mean, I'm a bit of a nomad. Like I train with Lockie and the guys at St Kilda. But I also have been out to Australian Elite Team and trained with those boys. And, you know, if they'll have me, I'll be there, you know. I went to Dominance the other day. That was really cool.
Yeah, I've been going Dominance. I'm at AET at the moment. Yeah,
nice.
So I'm trying to mix that in as well.
Yeah, so I think, like, maybe there's some stuff on some, you know, kind of clicky primal level, I guess, maybe. But by and large, most people in jiu-jitsu are pretty chill.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I don't think it's that big of a deal. But some people maybe get a bit emotional or something, but by and large, I think it's pretty chill.
Yeah.
You know, especially when you come out and you start to compete on worlds. Like, you know, I've never been to a big competition, like internationally, and saw another Australian be like, fuck, I hope that guy loses.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
except for maybe Josh. No, I'm joking.
Yeah. Were you tempted by the CGI $1 million?
Nah, not really, honestly, bro. Like, I don't know, like, for me, I put a lot into getting to ADCC. That was always my goal. And, like, for myself as well, it's a case of, like...
$1 million.
Yeah, what's $1 million among friends, you know? But, I mean, it's $1 million if you win, and that's a lot to put out there on yourself. For me, like, my goal in jiu-jitsu has been to become an elite level grappler. To me, it's not so much about becoming a world champion or winning a bunch of money from doing it. I just want to become elite. You know what I mean? I feel like I'm pretty well on my way. And to me, like, getting to ADCC, like, it took me 4 trials of traveling around the world and doing these camps to get to ADCC.
Wow.
So to me, I was like, there's not a chance that I'm going to flake on ADCC.
Yeah.
And the other side of the coin is, like, Mo barely knows me from a bar of soap, honestly. But he really helped me. Like, he helped bring my family. Like, he put us up with enough rooms. Like, he accommodated my family. He did all this other stuff behind the scenes that, like, I don't think, like, on paper would seem like he wouldn't do for everybody. But maybe he fucking does. You know what I mean? Like, and when you think about the costs associated with, like, flying us out, putting us all up, getting all the seats, and, you know, things like fucking money for food and stuff like this for me and my family while I was over there, like, that's just like, when you do the math, if you're getting like $10,001 to show to CJI, bro, honestly, probably I got similar value to that out of what I got from Mo.
Yeah.
And
right.
and you know, at the end of the day, then I get to do the thing that I set out to do, which was ADCC. So
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, like that's the big cheese for me as well. So, you know,
Was the intention? It was to shake it up, wasn't it? The only thing I can, or not the only thing, but I'm always for a scenario where something that has a monopoly ends up becoming a duopoly, if that's the right terminology. So in that respect, I kind of appreciated the tension of CGI.
sure. I mean, I think there was, yeah, like I think things that are going to bring more eyeballs to the sport is always going to be good. So in that sense, it did add an element of viewership for sure. At the same time, I think that you could probably accomplish that on like a weekend after. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it was literally like, to me, it just seemed like a bit of a fuck you to Mo from Craig.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm not going to go into it too much, but I mean, like, I think that that's probably a bit raw, in my opinion. But that's just me, you know, and I don't probably, everybody's got their own truth, everybody's got their own side of the story. But it seems a bit raw to me, you know?
Yeah.
Like, Mo gets painted as a bad guy, but from what I've seen and what I know about the guy, from my own personal experience, like everybody's going to say, oh, I had this, or maybe I had that. But from what I've seen, Mo's been very chill to me and has done a lot for a lot of the people in the jiu-jitsu community. And I think that it gets very undersold, the contribution that he's made. So
Yeah.
to me, that's like pretty raw deal to do to somebody that seems to, at least in my experience, to have done quite a lot for a lot of people. And like if he's helping me, like I'm the Australian trials champion for the second trials, like not to fucking undersell my accomplishment, but if there's an easiest trials, it's probably the one I want, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So to do all that for a guy like me, you got to think for sure that he's doing all that and then some for like people of higher caliber, so to speak.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I don't know. I just feel like, you know, I feel like I got a big helping hand from Mo, and I don't think that's a unique thing for his character.
Yeah, and not acknowledged at all. So because you're right, he was painted as the bad guy essentially.
Yeah, but like, yeah.
And yeah, I guess side note, like not side note, but yeah, the following might get edited out, but I feel like a lot of Craig's branding, or from what I can see on the outside, is like public humiliation to anyone all the time. That's just what I'm observing. It's like,
Yeah, I
just
think,
humiliate this person, and it's just always out, always in public, always, and I'm posting about it in your face.
Yeah.
Maybe he's awesome behind closed doors, but just from the content I'm consuming, I'm like, I just feel like I don't see him as a hero, you know?
yeah.
Even so,
Like, Craig's, like, I used to be quite close to Craig, and, you know, we used to train all the time, and basically, like, he was one of the inspirations that made me think, oh, shit, like, I need to learn from this John guy. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Because he came back from New York and was doing all this crazy jiu-jitsu, got even better every time he went there. And, yeah, basically it played out that, like, when I went to train there, he got upset that I went there and not at B team, which, I mean, I get, I guess, but for a guy that's always got this, like, you got a coach or a daddy, you know, don't be in a cult kind of thing, to then have a bit of a...
not their cult, my cult.
yeah. You know, come to my cult, you know? Like, I mean, it just seems silly, you know? But
Is that really the crux of it? Because that seems very, very. Are you straw manning that? Is there any complexity to it? Because I'd really hope that that's not it.
That was pretty much my experience. Like, Craig and I were pretty chill, and yeah, then I was like, I messaged him to say, like, hey man, I'm going to Texas to train with John. No hard feelings. Let's get dinner sometimes. Basically, the person paying for me to go wants me to train with New Wave, which was my missus. She was like, you want to learn from John, because like in her mind, like B team was literally like a gimmick to be like, no, well they're the second best, and then John's the best.
Exactly. Yeah.
So for her, she's like, no brainer. You should go train with John.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Well, it's John Danaher. Like
Exactly
it's
right.
John Danaher.
And then he was like, oh, who's paying for you to go? And I'm like, oh, my missus. Basically, all she knows is they're the best.
Right.
And then, yeah, I was like, unfriended and unfollowed and stuff like this. And I was
Oh
like,
wow, man.
I was like, oh, okay, well,
Yeah.
that sucks. But I was like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, he had a podcast where he tried to shit talk me a little bit, but I was just kind of like, oh, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. or everyone's like, oh, bro, you gonna say something?
Mm.
But there's no way I'm saying something because Craig's undefeated on social media. Like,
Yeah.
as much as I don't agree with everything he says, he's also like a fucking funny cunt. Like,
Yeah.
it's bad. Like, some of his stuff, like, even if it's like directed towards my friends, I have to go like, wow, that's actually pretty fucking funny. you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. And then that kind of leads us into the next question of, do you think dramas in the jiu-jitsu community, are they good for the community?
Good for the community? Probably not, because it ends up just making more division and stupid shit.
But
good-
jiu-jitsu is now bigger than it's ever been, yeah.
But good for like viewership and the sport. Like, maybe not necessarily in our community, but for the jiu-jitsu sport at a large.
Right.
It definitely adds some spice. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, which in itself is good, but there's a there's a level. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if it's just shit talk, fuck this guy, fuck that guy, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, that's okay. But like, I think when it starts to go into people's like personal lives and, you know, really trying to fucking, you know, undermine somebody's character and try to trash them publicly, they're like, oh, okay, guys, like, there's a level. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I appreciate that adds another element of like, you know, drama, and it makes it all exciting, whatever. But at the same time, like, I don't know. For me, like, I think like, especially with Craig and the DDS team, like, I feel kind of bad for. I mean, like, there's just a level where it's like, they did so much
Yeah.
to help Craig. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and like, not everybody knows this, but like, if you go to train with John and if you're in the pro team, like, John doesn't ask for money. He doesn't make you pay to train. Like, every time I go there, I'm like, John, can I give you something for my time here? Like, and he's like, no. And he looks at me like, I'm stupid. He's like, no, dude, no, you're here to train with us. Like, and like,
Well, you're worthy, so that's the payment, is you're worthy of being there.
that's right. You know what I mean? And like, so, for people like people behind closed doors, John, like, he gets painted in this like negative light a lot of the time as well. He's literally like one of the kindest, most generous people I've met. Honestly, I'll tell you a story about John actually that not many people know about this level of like person that John is. Because one day I was like kind of sat there, and I was at Renzo Gracie Academy, and the thing about Renzo Gracie is anybody can go there. Obviously, you have to pay your monthly fees and this sort of stuff. And I went to John and I said to him, I looked around and I said to John, I'm like, why are you here? I don't fucking get it. Why are you here? What are you, heart of a dollar? You know, you're doing your instructionals crush it. I'm sure you're doing great on the money side of things. Like, you have some weird expenses we don't know about, you know what I mean? I said, you have like the best guys in the world to go and train with. Wouldn't it be so much more engaging and interesting for you to work with this like elite level team? You know, like, what? I don't get why you're training like Steve, who's come from fucking Kansas. You know what I mean? Like, some random guy.
Yeah.
Why are you here? And John looked at me and said, the moment you only train the financially or physically elite in a sport, you lose touch with reality.
You know?
He's like, I'm just a fucking guy.
Yeah.
I just like jiu-jitsu. And, you know, like, what it was like, you know, and he's like, ultimately, if I walk down the street, like 0.1% of people might know about me. He's like, but I'm not a celebrity. I'm just some fucking guy.
Yeah.
And to me, obviously, like, John's like a big idol of mine, and he's like a fucking, to me, I think he's a fucking genius, right?
Yeah.
But to be like that level of down to earth, and probably who is like arguably like the biggest coaching figure in our sport, to be that chill and human. And also he's like, Daniel, I don't get paid to coach at Renzo Gracie. Like, he's like, I don't get a wage or a salary from any of my coaching.
Right.
And I was like, okay, so the guy's doing all this shit for free, literally just to help the common man in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, and to remain the common man.
Yeah, and he's like, and you can just keep your feet on the ground. You're training with real people. You know,
Yeah.
you're not just like with these super millionaires who are paying you fucking however much to coach. And I was like, wow, what a fucking real ass motherfucker. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's the kind of person that John is. Like, and you know, people can say all kinds of things about John's character and stuff like this, but I think, like, by and large, he's fucking been nothing but good to me, bro. Honestly.
Yeah. And it's easy to say this when you're in a position of not having the option of just taking the millions. So anyone can be like, yeah, it's easy to be humble or whatever, but he is the best in the world, and he has these options to choose just the millions and stay elite. And he's willingly choosing to just be a fucking human being.
Yeah.
That's so much different from someone who doesn't have the option to say, oh yeah, I'll do that as well.
Yeah, and like the other thing is like John, his hips are literally fucked.
Yeah,
like
right.
I watch him like leave the mat sometimes, and he's like,
Yeah,
you know?
shit.
So like for him to literally be, he coaches like 4 sessions a day, Monday to Friday, 2 a day on the weekends, and this man like does not miss. Like he's there for the guys. Like answers questions, does his best, like, and shows up every day with like a clear plan in mind about what he wants to give to the team to try and bring the level up. Like the dude's unreal to be like that locked in all year round. Like the only time he's not in town is if he's like deathly sick, if he's away filming an instructional or away coaching the team. Basically, like he's not just like, no, I'm not coming in today. Like even if he's like literally fucked up, he literally makes the time to come in and work with the team.
Fucking hell, man.
And that's part of why
That's what it takes, right?
that's part of why I would say like the New Wave team are so invested in John, because they see how invested he is in them. So it's easy to be like, oh man, I've got to show up to training today because I know John's fucking putting the work in as well. Like just that as a coach by itself is huge.
Well, even Gordon himself seems, all the medical scenarios happening and is still on this elite level. That alone is commendable. But he's definitely had a rebrand, it seems, in in more recent times, which is good to see. Just the interactions everywhere. So
Yeah, no, Gordon's chill. I really like Gordon.
Yeah.
He, been nothing but nice to me. He's a fucking animal. He beats the fuck out of me, and then I'm like, fuck you, and he's like, yeah, nice try.
it's like there's your new drive. You're welcome.
Exactly, yeah. I'm like, I'll get you next time. He's like, I'd love to see it.
Yeah, man. No, good.
No, he's really chill.
So ADCC, how was that whole experience for you? Obviously not the ideal outcome. It softens the blow that you lost to the champion.
A bit, yeah. I mean, like, I really wanted to. I was really kind of hopeful, actually. Like, it was kind of funny. Like, given the CJI thing, and we had a few people move across from -99. There wasn't a ton of them, but I think like less than the open weight. But I was kind of hopeful that I would probably get a better seed than 16. You know what I mean? And I was kind of hoping that it wouldn't be a 16th seed, and I figured probably Nicholas would get the first or second seed, and I was hoping that because we're on the same team, we wouldn't get first round matchups. So then I was like, oh, maybe 14, 13 seed, and there was some kind of talks about like getting so-and-so a seed, and I think that like, honestly, against Kynan's like a fucking rough matchup for everybody, and I was really hopeful to not have to fight Nicholas. Like, I wasn't technically on New Wave's team, like I wasn't representing him, I was representing my team, Precision. But at the same time, they obviously I did camp with them, and they had Gordon in my corner. Of course, they're supporting me, right?
Yeah.
So I was kind of hopeful that I would get like 14, 13. And I think against one of them, I could have done a bit more of a splash, for sure. But it wasn't meant to be, so I had to fucking face the music with Big Kynan. But even still, like, not many people can recover from like bad spots against Kynan. Obviously, I got caught, which sucks. But, to get out of his like chest-to-chest half guard, to recover back to my guard a couple of times, to fucking, escape from back control, all this sort of thing. Like, little victories, I'm like,
It matters, man.
Kynan's a fucking animal. Like, if he locked his hands on you in half guard, like, most people are going to never see the light of day again. And I got out, so I was like, okay, sick. Maybe it's a lot to do with Gordon teaching me a technique mid-match, but nah, like, I didn't think I did terribly, like, obviously I could have had a better performance. But yeah, just to come out and feel the level and kind of just embrace the moment, you know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things, like, you set out to go and pursue this goal over the course of years and years. And, like, literally, like I said, I've been to Japan, Sydney, Singapore, and Thailand. Those were my trials. So I traveled, like, fucking all over Asia just to fucking try and punch my ticket. And so to get kind of like, finally get across the bridge and get out there is really sick. And, now that I've felt like level, like, I felt like a really big sense of, like, accomplishment. Like I said, because the goal for me, I understand, like, I'm 29 now and I own a gym. I'm not a full-time athlete. Like, I mean, I try to be, but it's fucking hard. Like, I'm not like I'm training twice a day every day like some guys who have positioned themselves to be able to do this. Other people started when they're like 7, 8 years old, like big advantages, right? But I think given all my conditions, to be able to go there and get to ADCC and do this, like, that was a massive accomplishment, and I think speaks very well to my, accomplishment of a goal of becoming elite. So just to get to the big dance and show that I'm not just going to get fucking starched in 30 seconds.
Yeah, exactly.
Was really big for me. Like, I don't expect to probably ever be able to beat somebody like a Gordon or a Nicholas or one of these guys. But if I can give them competitive rounds that they have to actually work hard, like that's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Because I've watched them go with people who are, I would say, are world level and just look fucking bored while they beat the brakes off them. And you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, the level at the top is insane. It's insanely high. But yeah, so.
No, it's crazy. Because then as you're speaking, I always remember and I appreciate, but then that's the part that trips me out is we are talking the 1%. This is the elite of the elite.
Yeah, so like that's what I mean. Like, to become a world champion requires everything, and you may not ever get it. Like some people were like, "Oh, dude, so you're gonna move to Texas, and like try and pursue this for real." And for me, I just felt like I could for sure. And there's an argument to be made for top 16 for the weight class, and I certainly tell people that in my branding, but I think, probably a fair assessment of my level is maybe like top 30, top 40, somewhere in this.
Fucking crazy.
It's still good, don't get me wrong, right? But like it's probably not like that top 10, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I said, I think to myself, like, okay, if I go to New Wave and I do all those things, I'd have to uproot my entire life, and I've got a family, a wife, kids, like this sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I've got obviously this business that I've spent a lot of time and energy building. But if I up and do this, am I going to get to the top dog spot? Probably not, because I'm 29, right? Like, if I was in this position now at like 21, probably get a different conversation, probably go over there now.
Right.
But, reasonably, I'd say I could probably make top 10 if I move to New Wave. But then it's like, how much does those 20 to 30 spaces mean to me?
Yeah.
When I could have my life in Australia, give back to my team as well. This is the other thing. Like, you lose the ability to improve jiu-jitsu in Australia if you fucking leave indefinitely.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, as good as what Craig did for the sport is, it also doesn't really positively impact people on the ground in Australia now. And, there's talks about, like, other athletes coming back and this sort of stuff in the future, which is awesome, but, like, that is what it's going to take to make jiu-jitsu, like, it's certainly made some big leaps, but, like, athletes being in Australia and staying in Australia is what's going to make Australian Jiu-Jitsu world class.
Yeah, and bring everyone up to that level.
Yeah, like, we've got some people in Australia who are unreal, like Levi, Adele, Nadia Franklin's another animal. She's one of the Allione athletes. But, like, there's plenty of people who are, like, really, really good, and if they stay and they build Australian Jiu-Jitsu, that's when you're going to see the real fruits of the labor.
I feel like we're slowly losing Adele.
We're going to keep her.
We're grabbing Adele.
Bro, we got Vegemite. We're going to hold her hostage. Ain't no way she's leaving Vegemite.
No, you're not leaving Adele.
But yeah, so this is the thing. Like, if you go overseas to learn and bring it back, bro, you have more than the world of my respect, because that shit is, it's like, especially as an athlete, like when you're trying to be a competitor, it's a fucking long flight to go.
Yeah.
For competing every other weekend or every other month. Like, it takes a toll. It really does.
Yeah, I could only imagine, man. What are you experiencing when you're going into a fight? Like, how do you handle, like, the fear of confrontation? Do you still get that fear, or you're just another day you're comfortable?
So it's actually interesting. I especially as I get better and the expectations kind of creep, they get like higher and higher. They expect me to do really well. I had a match with I had my preparation for the ADCC trials that I won, and I really felt super confident going in. I was like, holy shit, I'm really hitting this level, hitting this stride in training room. Like, I really feel like I'm there. I went in uninjured. I had no bad things going on in my personal life, and like everything was aligned.
Stars
really
are
well.
aligning, yeah.
I know. So going in, I was like, oh, bro, like, this is it. I'm fucking gonna win. Like, like I said, the Sydney trials, I split my head open. Singapore trials, I shifted my rib, or whatever you want to call it, like literally the last minute of sparring before I left for the competition.
Oh no,
it was terrible.
Yeah.
So I always had this kind of like built-in excuse, which I don't like, but it was a big hurdle to overcome. I was like, wow, fuck, this is really annoying, And then going in, I was like, all right, I have no excuse. It's just my jiu-jitsu versus theirs. I'm gonna win. Because I really believe that I'm that good. But then there's a level of like, oh shit, now I'm getting nervous because it's like, what if I fuck it up?
Yeah,
And I can't lean on anything. I just suck if I lose, you know?
Well, yeah, just lost at the time. But yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, there's no fallback.
And I spoke to Nicholas about this, and I was like, oh, bro, like, I'm starting to get fucking nervous, bro. Like, this is getting stressful. And he's like, why? And I'm like, oh, bro, like, I'm just fucking, I don't want to fuck it up. And, you know, like, I'm worried. It's just nervous, you know? And he's like, just remember, nobody fucking cares. And I was like, what?
Wait.
He's like, yeah, dude, if I compete, nobody fucking cares. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what do you mean, bro? And he's like, well, the people that matter care, but they care that I'm okay. You know, they care that I get home in one piece, that I'm doing what I love for a sport, and that I make a career out of doing what I love. And, you know, and at the end of the day, like, no matter what happens, like, people are going to forget in a few months' time.
Exactly.
You know?
And how much are you invested in other people's journey? I'm not too invested in others too deeply that I, you know.
Yeah, like, for example, like, if you'd think if people care about my career, it would be like my students, you know, for example, or my family. They'd be so invested, like, oh, Daniel's going to go do ADCC, and I lost first round. But nobody's like, oh, fuck. Wasted opportunity, Daniel. Fucking what a loser. Like, nobody's thinking this. They're just like, oh, you got home and okay, and you're uninjured, and you got to go to ADCC. That's unreal.
Exactly.
And so, basically, when I was getting ready for the last trials, Nicholas told me about this, and he's like, bro, nobody cares. Just remember, whenever you start to get anxious and you start to feel stressed, just remember nobody cares and it doesn't actually matter.
Yeah.
Like, you're doing a sport that you love and you like to do. You chose to sign up, and nobody cares what happens. And so then, when I would go into last trials, I would start to be like, oh, it's my day, I'm getting excited. And then I'd remember, positive or negative, oh, you know, nobody cares.
Yeah.
That doesn't actually matter. It matters to me, but nobody else actually cares. You know what I mean?
That's like the beauty of nihilism. Where like, nothing really matters. Nothing really has inherent value. I mean, you can argue it philosophically, but like, we're all going to die and we're all going to be forgotten.
Yeah. But I thought it was really interesting from a guy like Nicholas to have this approach to competition.
Yeah.
Because on the surface, he seems like this big fucking, I'm the fucking guy. But like, to be able to be like, oh, but actually nobody cares. It's very, very human. I was like, wow. Chill guy, Nicholas.
Yeah.
Okay.
Noted. You're popping off on the socials, man. You're going for it.
I'm trying, bro. I'm trying. I'm trying to get fucking 10K followers by posting jiu-jitsu techniques, but also me bashing people.
Yeah, I'm seeing it.
And funny shit.
Some memification going on.
I'm trying to add the meme elements. Right? I feel like I've got the right amount of autism to make this shit funny, and I feel like I'm the chosen one. So
yeah, just tweaking. Is fame in your equation? Is that a part of it?
It's not so much like fame. Honestly, I just like to try to build my platform to help grow my business and get more members that I can help more people and improve jiu-jitsu across the board. You know what I mean? Like, that's the main thing, you know? Obviously, like, it helps to make my lifestyle easier. Like, if I all of a sudden had, like, I don't know, 500,000 followers, that'd be unreal, right?
Yeah.
But
it's just opportunities, really.
Just opportunity, yeah. You know, if it means that I got, like, better, like, more sponsorships, or, you know, I can do more for the people that I'm working with, all these types of things, like, that's kind of like the value, you know? Not necessarily like,
attention. Yeah.
Because, it's funny. I mean, sometimes I'll be at competition and people come up and talk to me like they know me. Like, oh, what's up, bro? Hey, bro, I saw your fucking last match, man.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, guy.
Hey, dude.
Hey, buddy. No, but I mean, it's all love at the end of the day. Like, I'm sick that people get invested in what I'm doing as well.
But you're I hate the term, but public figure. You're someone.
Say it again.
Say it again. Hit me with it again. But yeah, no. Once you become a public figure, I think the term is parasocial or parasocial, where people start to build a one-sided relationship with you, and you just see the views, and then you got people, because I recognize you as well. I obviously introduced myself and said, you know, from it, seeing you on Instagram, but I can see why, and even me seeing on the podcast, just people's responses and putting your thoughts out, putting yourself out there, but it's kind of going to the ether, to the void.
Yeah,
like,
that's
really.
the weird thing about making content.
Yeah,
like, you never really know how it's received. Like, I try to make it clear that I'm just a fucking silly cunt.
Yeah, or just yourself. Like,
I'm just me, you know? And yeah, it's all love at the end of the day. Just trying to share jiu-jitsu, make clickbaity titles and captions and
Yeah.
stuff, try and grab attention and see if I can teach anybody anything that they want to learn along the way. And yeah,
Bring it back to the gym.
exactly. Yeah.
That's awesome. What are some things you wish you knew before you opened up your gym?
I mean, it's obvious to say, but like, there's a lot of stuff that isn't jiu-jitsu coaching that goes into opening this gym. So like, when we opened, for example, it was during lockdown, basically.
Oh, that's so recent.
Yeah.
Or recent enough, sorry, but like,
Yeah,
awesome,
so
yeah.
October of 2020 is when we opened.
Right, yeah.
And so through 2020, I and my wife and a few other people who shall not be named for legal purposes,
Thou shalt not be named. Yeah.
we were here working on this gym.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
And so what I mean is like, if you look around, I don't know if you can see the shots, but there's like cage panels, bags hanging off walls into cinder blocks and stuff like this. I had to learn how to do all this shit. And I basically, like, between my wife and I, we did it together pretty much.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like a lot of the building stuff and like install of different shit.
True.
I was like, wow, I don't know how to fucking... How do you hang shit into cinder blocks? They're hollow, bro. That's retarded.
Yeah, good point, yeah.
So I had to learn how to use like ChemSet and other weird stuff that I have no idea about.
Right.
And it's not as though you can call in a builder because they're like, yeah, bro, we're in a lockdown. So
Yeah.
you should figure it out. You know what I mean?
Pretty much.
So between that and then like, I mean, I'm obviously when you're a coach for a long enough time, like I've been a coach for 10 years. You know what I mean? Whole last decade now. And obviously learn to manage people. But there's another side of like managing people when you're trying to like run a business as well. Because obviously it's easy to be a coach and just be friends with people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you're like, hey bro, actually you have been not paying your fees for the last month. So what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Trying to dance that line of being like, yeah, of course we're mates, but like there's a level of like, hey bro, like I'm also a professional. Like
Yeah, it's that dance of authority, but not too far away that you're unreachable, but
Yeah,
you
correct.
are the authority. Like,
correct, yeah.
So-
Like still do what I fucking say.
Yeah. Well, it's your space.
Correct.
Literally
Yeah.
your space, and you can fucking do whatever you want with it.
Yeah.
And you've chosen to make it a jiu-jitsu place. So.
Yeah. So yeah, like that's kind of the tricky part sometimes. Like we have a, I'm the sales guy as well. And my
Yeah.
sales strategy is, this is the price. It'd be cool if you were here. And if you don't want to, then okay. Because I don't like the whole feeling of there's whole sorts of stuff that I've read about like, leading people into being like, this is the solution. Like I know you can like kind of build a framework of like leading questions to be like, why do you want to start this now though? You know what I mean? Like, and kind of creating urgency and all this sort of stuff. Like I've looked into that and like, I think it has value for sure. But I also think that it's not really me, because if I trick you into training with me, like that's cool, but like it'd be good. And if you come and stay and you have a great time, then amazing, I've done my job correctly.
Yeah.
But I also just want you to join if you want to join, make it your own choice. And then if you enjoy it and you want to stick around, then sick, you'll go really far.
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, then okay, maybe we're not the gym for you. Because this is the thing, like a lot of gyms train a lot harder than us, like physically. We have a pretty chill approach to jiu-jitsu. Precision. That's kind of an idea about how I want my jiu-jitsu to run. And it's not going hell for leather. It's not like scrapping like crazy. It's just like clean.
Yeah.
Clean jiu-jitsu,
Specific.
slow, play nicely, fucking learn the sport. You know what I mean? There's not really a space for going 100% unless you're like preparing for a competition.
Right,
You know
yeah,
what I mean? But for the average person, it's probably not on the cards. But some people want to come in and they want to fucking bang, and that's cool.
Yeah.
And other people want to do even less. They want to just drill more, or they want to not do any kind of sparring. They want to sit out rounds. And I'm like, well, that's shit. But, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
if that's what you want, yeah.
yeah. And if you want to go to a school that's more like that, then okay, Because, I can't be for everybody. I'm
Yeah.
just who I am. And if you think I'm awesome, then sick. And if you don't, then you're wrong, but it's all good.
So, yeah, do you consciously need to do something to create culture in the gym, or is it just you just being yourself, or?
That's a good question. So I think like my wife and I, we put out a big energy of just be real. Just be real. You know what I mean? And if you cut through the bullshit and you have an authentic conversation with somebody, you can agree or not disagree about all sorts of different things politically or different ideologies or whatever the case, right? And, you know, at the end of the day, if you're real and you just understand that you're looking at another human being who has work tomorrow and all this sort of stuff.
And no one knows what the fuck is going on.
No one knows what the fuck is going on. We're all just making up shit in our head and being like, yeah, I'm right.
I feel like that's adulthood is going, oh wait, my parents don't know what's happening. I don't know what's happening. I'm never going to know what's happening.
Yeah.
That's adulthood for me.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I think like a lot of places, I mean, obviously I'm not trying to fucking shit on anybody. Like hey, you can run your gym however you want to. But I think a lot of places like really lean into like the political correctness side of things and they try and like kind of, oh, don't say that and blah, 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 blah. I think as long, you can say whatever you like as long as you're not a piece of shit. You know what I mean? That's the reality.
No.
Like you can have whatever view you want to have.
I think you can be a piece of shit.
I mean, yeah, of course you can be a piece of shit if you want to. But what I'm saying is like more in terms of the culture of things is like you can have whatever view you want in my gym.
Sorry, yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And as long as you're not like an asshole about it, then I don't care.
Sorry, I forgot we're talking about the context of the gym. So no, 100%. Yeah, you can't be a piece of shit in this context. Sorry, yeah. Apologies.
And then if you are, then I say, hey bro, don't be fucking retarded. You know.
Yeah.
And then if they want to continue to be a piece of shit, then I say, there's the door, bro. I have no qualms about showing people the door if they're gonna be just an asshole for the sake of it.
Yeah.
But you know, you can think fucking whatever you like. But if you're a good person and you're a good cunt, then that's all I can ask for.
Yeah, I love that. I've noticed that recently as well. There's something that makes me a bit uneasy about just learning fight disciplines and jits is, have you ever, I guess as an instructor, as a coach, have you ever been teaching someone and noticed that maybe they're not just being too much of a piece of shit, but this person's a bully and may use the things that you're teaching them in a negative way outside of jits? Is that something you've ethically had to wrestle with in your experience?
A few times, yeah. I've definitely had some people from some dark times in their life. But just have to understand that, like, while I'm giving them a weapon, basically, right? Like, if you think about it, jiu-jitsu is a weapon.
Yeah.
While I'm giving them a weapon, I'm also trying to show them a way of being, which is more important than just being dangerous. So this kind of speaks back to the culture of, like, everybody has work tomorrow. So if you're training, the goal is not to be winning by any means. It's to just get better. And I think if you're in this space where people are just trying to get better together, have a good time, learn some jiu-jitsu, have a fucking laugh, and just kind of relax after work or whatever the case is, like, when you're in this culture of people, like, I think this propagates the idea of being just more chill and understanding that everybody has their own path. So if you see some cunt who's like, you know, slights you at the train station, you're like, oh, you're just a fucking guy, bro. Who cares?
Yeah.
But there's also a level of like, when you become dangerous, the necessity of being a tough guy is removed. Like, the amount of times I've been like, you know, out in public and someone's like, oh, you're a fucking big cunt. Fucking let's have a bit of a go. And I'm like, nah, man, you got it.
Yeah, it's yours.
Yeah. Because I'm like, bro, fuck. I'm not trying to go to jail.
Yeah, no, exactly.
But also the other side of it is like, I also understand we're doing fucking jiu-jitsu, and if some cunt stabs me, I haven't got a fucking, I can't bolo out of a knife stab, right?
Yeah.
You know, or fucking whatever the case is. Someone jumps me with 20 dudes, it's gonna be fucking hard, even if I'm a big motherfucker.
Yeah.
You know, just be a nice cunt, and that's it.
Yeah. I feel like that's part of the, you know, the meme of just like cult, like being a cult. I think there's like utility to that as well, in that, yeah, let's say someone is struggling and you have given them a sense of value, a sense of community, and a sense of meaning. We can use the word cult in a funny way, but like, why not use it, you know?
Literally, every time I have a new person come into my gym, we have two group chats. The important cult chat and the regular cult chat. And I literally welcome people being, hey man, welcome to the cult.
Okay.
I don't even try and hide it. We're 100%
So
a
we
cult.
called it, yeah.
We call a spade out here, bro.
Welcome to the cult, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Because it's just like, you know, it's a funny way to be like, look, let's be real. We're doing this strange thing
Yeah.
where we're wrestling around on the ground, and you know, if you know, you know. Like, so people in the cult, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
If you're like, oh, bro, I swear to God, bro, you should see my beer and ball I've been working on.
Yeah.
At the family function, they're gonna be like, this cunt's
At
fucking
the wedding.
lost it.
Yeah. And there's like, even there's a sense of, through the experience and leveling up, like almost a transcendent feeling. Collectively, everyone's working to this unified goal in the future that's bigger than everyone.
100%.
So
Yeah,
there's definitely religious, or let's call it sacred, cultish elements
yeah,
in
I
the
think
best
so.
sense.
For sure, yeah.
But I guess the thing that I've heard defines a cult is if you can't criticize the god or the leader.
Mm.
Do you take criticism well?
None at all. Not allowed. I'll kick you out. If you think I'm wrong, that's it.
You don't exist.
You're done for. Nah, of course. I mean, of course. I mean, dude, I'll be the last person to say that I'm a perfect person.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, I'm fully aware that I've made some fucking rough choices.
Yeah.
I just want to smack my my former self.
Yeah.
But I think as long as people understand that, like, everybody is a flawed person, and as long as you're trying to work hard to be a better person, and you kind of acknowledge and understand where you've had shortcomings in the past, that's all anybody can really do.
Yeah.
Because as we grow as people, we grow, for better or worse, we're gonna grow. You know what I mean? So as long as you're trying to put the best foot forward to try and grow positively, that's all you can really hope to accomplish. And not gonna make friends with everybody. You're not gonna be the best person to everybody in everybody's opinion. But at the end of the day, like, as long as you're trying, that's what really matters.
Yeah. So you've been doing it for 10 years.
Coaching.
Coaching. Oh, just coaching. Yeah. Okay.
Coaching for 10 and jiu-jitsu for, I think I'm just about to tick over 14 years.
Awesome, man. I view you and Chris Trio as like a generation of a similar. You're of a similar generation. You're kind of the young adults of the jiu-jitsu realm, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like to be associated with that guy. No, I'm joking. Chris is lovely. But yeah, no, we came up kind of in similar time frames. So I was coaching him back when I was like blue-purple. He was like really starting out at extreme. But yeah, so for sure,
I find that awesome. I guess that's leading into how do you feel like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has changed over time, especially in your teaching as well? Are the kids getting a bit more ADHD like, or what's the change over time been like for you?
We're directly targeting people with autism to come and train with us. No, I mean, jiu-jitsu.
Target audience. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. No, jiu-jitsu has really changed, in my opinion, especially in my circle of reference and things like this, because when I first started training, like, the guys were lovely, but the instruction was like not good. You know what I mean? Like, even black belts, like, obviously, like, that's what they had at the time, which is fine. And they did their best with what they had, but I don't think it was near the best way. I don't think it was the right approach. But that's just me, and it's easy for me to say now that we're looking back now. But I feel like I kind of had an approach to jiu-jitsu that was always fairly systematic. I like the idea of this, then this. And we kind of came from a time and a school that was kind of like, yeah, but just do it harder and it'll probably work. And that sucked.
Yeah.
I didn't like this about that style of jiu-jitsu we were doing. So I had like probably around 7 years in that kind of setting. And I kind of, when I was getting ready for Worlds, I started like studying online, looking at like the Mendez brothers and all this sort of stuff, which got me a lot better, because when you're a fucking ultra heavy that knows how to bolo, it's kind of a wild card.
Yeah, all right.
Especially for that time, right?
Yeah.
And then after that, I joined up at Absolute, and I was like, oh wow, more levels. And then I went and trained at Roker, and I was like, oh wow, I'm actually a white belt.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, so definitely it's changed. Like the game has changed for sure over time, especially in the space I was doing it in. So
Is there more kind of redundant things that are just kind of said to seem contrarian or niche or new?
how do you mean so?
Like, is there new techniques that have popped up that are just unnecessary, you feel like? Because obviously if you go from the start, there was a lot less of an arsenal, I'm assuming, through the evolution of jiu-jitsu. Is there a lot, not a lot, but are there more things now that you feel like, is it getting, is like the information ecology getting diluted with too much information, even in the jits realm, or it's just constantly evolving and it's the way it should be now?
It's a good question. It's a good question for sure. I think like that the subset of moves in jiu-jitsu has probably increased because of the nomenclature. So like when you can identify a position, your ability to learn about it, do it, pressure test it, all these sort of things is going to get better, right? So before, when nobody really knew what like the difference between X and reverse X was, or various leg entanglements. They just saw like a leg and you're like, oh, you're in a heel hook because you're in single leg X.
That's where I'm at
Like,
right now.
that was like the old school, right? Like literally, if you knew single leg X, you just win. It was unreal.
The good times.
The glory days. The glory days of being a leg locker. But now, because of much more established understanding of various positions, configurations, submissions, like this is what's yielded all this growth, right? At the same time, you also have to think about marketing. So there's a level, I would say, in jiu-jitsu of people trying to sell people information, which, I mean, God bless them. If it works for them, maybe it does, maybe it's worth it. But I think that there's a lot of things in jiu-jitsu that are not that relevant that get sold.
Yeah, okay.
In terms of instructions and stuff.
Yep.
So I think it's valuable to have an open mind and to learn from lots of people. But at the same time, you kind of have to always come back to like, I have a rule of recency. So like, for example, sometimes people will send me stuff on Instagram, like my students, and they're like, yo, what do you think about this technique, bro? What do you think about this flying coyote ooga booga guard?
Are you yelling at me right now? I did this as well.
So they'll send me this kind of crazy shit, and they're like, what do you think, bro? You reckon it's real? And I'll be like, well, if I haven't seen it at a world level in the last 5 to 10 years, probably it's retarded.
Yeah, okay.
Probably don't need to worry about that, bro. Probably just work on hip escapes. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
you probably don't need the 2 cartwheels into it. Yeah, maybe not.
but I mean, like, this is the idea that I take. Like, I watch most high-level jiu-jitsu competitions, and if I haven't seen it work at a high level, I'm probably like, nah, probably we can leave this one at the door.
Right. Yeah.
It's not to say there's not room for exploration, but most stuff that works will show up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? On
Yeah.
some level or another. And if it's not working at a high level, it's not to say that you shouldn't learn it, for sure, but it can add to the noise. I think like a big thing that I did in my progression towards black belt, it's like I feel like white to blue is about what, blue to purple is about like developing a game and learning all the stuff. And I feel like when I went from like purple to brown and brown to black, I just cut way more and more shit out of my game.
Right. Yeah.
You know? And like simple. So I used to have this view, and it's actually interesting to talk about how my views change, I would say. So I used to have this idea that like if I had a more inherently complex game, I can, and that every position in jiu-jitsu has degrees of chaos, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So for example, playing underhook half guard has a very limited amount of chaos, right? And so that means that if you try to order half guard when you play this game, the degree of chaos is low. Therefore, anybody can order it on the top or the bottom.
Okay.
And based on the level of understanding, it's like small micro adjustments to make your understanding of the chaos better. I thought there was an interesting element where at heavyweight especially, because people don't play complicated like berimbolo games like they do at lightweight, berimbolos, leg entries, inverted craziness, that there's inherently much more chaos in those sort of systems. So I spent quite a bit of time trying to order that chaos and then trying to leverage that to my advantage. And I think that it's paid off a little bit, but I also think that there's a lot to be said about the value of simplicity and good timing. So,
sorry, interjection. When you're saying chaos, I'm assuming you mean there's like points of tension, you're both kind of frozen, and then let's say someone loosens up a bit, that's your window to move and make a different position. Is that what you mean when you say chaos? That all right, we're moving again and now we're still?
I kind of just mean simply in terms of like the degree of movement that is possible in a position.
Okay. Yep.
So say, for example, I have underhook half guard. The degree of movement is pretty limited because I'm pulling on your leg, I'm my hip to hip, I've got a good underhook, you have a whizzer,
Yep.
I'm getting up, you're trying to keep the pressure on me. Slow, right? Slow, low chaos. Incremental adjustments make you a less chaotic grappler. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. Then when you have something like berimbolo or spinning leg entries and all this sort of crab ride-y kind of game, it can be controlled, and if you order the chaos well, it's very, very powerful. There's a lot of very good grapplers who order the chaos beautifully. And I would say these people have a massive advantage in that area because of their understanding of how to order the chaos.
Yeah.
So this is something that I kind of explored for a little while, But then there's a lot of problems that you run into with very chaotic games where, especially when I went to New Wave, it got really, really sweaty in Texas. And so the degree of grip really inhibits high chaos environments, because then you can't just rely on cupping somebody's hip to keep a hold of them. You can't even rely on just hanging on to someone's wrist, because that shit will just slip off.
Bro, my hidden technique is that I turn into a slug when I'm rolling. Like, it's disgusting, but I'm like, hey, not my problem, and I'm slipping out of everything.
That's it. So then in those instances, simplicity really is the key.
Right.
And like, if you try to fucking do some crazy spinning thing where you rely on like this tiny little bit of tension to keep you connected, it's gonna be fucking hard to stick unless you're a goddamn wizard. You know, not impossible. I definitely know plenty of people that can do it. But it's very hard, and you will also get tired if you spend a lot of energy doing some complicated shit and it doesn't work.
Right.
That's when it sucks. So it's been an interesting shift in my own perception about jiu-jitsu and how I put value on different things.
Yeah. That's a really good point. I'm slowly starting to learn is this this concept of just allocating your resources correctly and then more efficiently. Why are you wasting energy on this where you could be doing this?
Correct,
And use
yeah.
that energy there. So that's a big one for me. But I'm still in I'm still developing the arsenal at this point in time. So yeah.
Yeah,
the
most
baby
people
steps,
spend, they'll, like, this is what I think. A lot of the time, people go to me and like, oh, I'm trying to learn this bolo or something, like some crazy fancy shit. And I say, you can, and it can become your X factor that you're like a bolo guy or a leg lock guy. But probably you should just learn how to hold someone in side control. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How to hold them in mount, how to isolate somebody's arm properly, how to get out of a pin. Like, these things are like, probably have more value overall than like learn some flashy move. You know what I mean? Like, if you could just teach a guy how to fucking pass half guard, control mount, and get to the back and strangle them, probably you're going to go really far. You know what I mean? If you get really good at that, rather than just be some crazy fucking spinny guy. If you just get a good frame, if you understand the position on a fundamental level, you can like frame them out and make it really hard to make a good connection, and then you're like, oh well, fuck. Now my guard doesn't work because it's really slippery. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. The other one gets the Instagram reels though.
Exactly. So it's a careful balance.
It's really good.
Weighing up effectiveness with clicks on Instagram.
With fucking vanity. I love it.
I'd be leaning into the clicks.
Yeah, I'm
lately.
definitely leaning into clicks for sure.
But at the same time, I think like you can make fundamentals exciting, because if you go, hey bro, like you probably aren't doing this simple thing that's gonna make you way fucking better. Like the amount of shit that I learned from John, where I'm like, wow, I've been training for over a decade and I don't know this basic shit. And I'm like, wow, that's fucking embarrassing.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's like, from my experience, it's like, just fucking point your toe that way. I'm like, wait, the whole thing just changed off something so simple.
Yep. Yeah, this type of thing.
Yeah. But I guess to go full circle, how would we capture that in the ecological approach?
Well, that's right. I mean, you have to know that you're trying to create this movement solution and just fucking hope for the best.
Just pray.
This is why I think it's not so good. So if you have the framework to kind of point out, hey, try this movement solution for this problem, and they go, oh, fuck, that worked really good. Like, that's kind of like where I think the ecological falls down a bit. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Greg will explain to me why I'm a fucking retard.
Yeah, we'll find out. Nah,
Please
awesome,
respond.
man.
Please respond.
Please respond. Thanks, man. No, thanks for welcoming me into the gym, man. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, man. It's been really cool to have you down, have a cool chat, and talk about some jiu-jitsu, which is the only thing I'm good at talking about.
Fuck yes.
Shout out to autism. Let's go.
Shout out to autism. Sweet, man. I guess, what's plans? Do you have future, are you working on something else? What's future goals, and
Sure.
what do you want to do with the gym?
Sure. So, I mean, like, obviously, like I said, I spent a lot of time away last year. So I'm going to spend a bit of time, maybe first half of the year, here in Melbourne with the team. Maybe do a few comps with the team. We'll see how it goes.
Nice.
And then I think end of June, I have AIGA finals, which is going to be a really big opportunity to try and take some good names and maybe make some good money. Because I think the championship prize is like $500,000 US among the team. That would go a long way, honestly.
Yeah, wow.
So before that, I'm probably going to try to get out and do a camp with the New Wave team, and be good to catch up with the boys, because obviously I miss them. They're a good bunch of boys. And so probably do that maybe start of June, so just after I think nationals, in Australia, and then I'll go there, do a bit of prep, and then Eiger finals, go back to Kazakhstan, hopefully fucking win a nice chunk of change, take some names on the way, and then and then after that, I'm not really sure. We'll see where the opportunities take me. You know,
Fuck yeah.
Never say never. You know, and that's the plan.
Is it the Kazakhstan thing that has such a
Aura.
yeah, aura? Is it as intense as everyone would just assume it is?
I went to Kazakhstan in the winter for the first time last time I was there, and that shit was crazy.
It looked really cool. It looked fucking sick.
You know what it looked? It looked fucking cold, bro. It got down to like minus 25 while I was there.
Yeah,
that's the coldest shit I've ever felt in my life.
Yeah. That's
but
wild.
So that was pretty unique.
I mean, the people, I guess, culturally welcoming.
Yeah, they're pretty nice. Yeah.
Okay.
They kind of just deal with me being a bumbling idiot who doesn't speak any fucking Kazakh really. I know a couple of phrases, but not much.
Yeah.
I know Rahmat. It's like thank you.
Okay.
That's I just like thank you for
Rackmat, bro.
Rackmat. Hey, bro, Rackmat.
Hey, Rackmat, man.
You're a real good one.
Oh, Struth, mate. Yeah, fair enough.
But yeah, no, they're pretty chill. I did actually it was funny. Last time I was there, I tried to go for an adventure and walk down the street, and I saw a fucking armed security guard guarding a bridge, and I was like, this is fucking weird. I was like, hey, bro, like, can I go there? And he's like, I don't speak English. Like, just looked at me like I was an asshole, and I was like, got Google Translate. I'm like, and he's like, no. Private. And I was like, cool. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
You can just keep your fucking M16 and I'll just be on my way, bro.
Yeah, fuck. Different place, man.
Yeah,
Different
it's pretty surreal. But it's pretty cool.
Awesome.
I like the Kazakh people. They're very cool, very accommodating. Got some nice food as well. Horse meat.
Yeah.
Alistair Overeem was onto something.
I didn't even know that's an option. Shit.
No, literally, it's quite good actually. Yeah. It's kind of like it's a little bit gamey, but it's kind of similar to like the tenderness of like a brisket, but with like
fucking selling it.
but with less of a beefy flavor. It's a bit different. It's quite nice.
Goodness gracious.
Make the trip.
Make
It's
the
worth it.
trip to Kazakhstan for the horse meat.
But bring warm clothes if you go in the
Yeah,
winter.
shit. No, honestly, man, I think, goes without saying, you're going for it. Young, successful, fucking making it happen.
I'm not young anymore. Fuck.
No, yeah, true. We're in that transition, the back. Oh, yeah, I guess is that another thing? Sorry, we'll wrap it, but yeah, damage control. Have you had like pretty bad injuries, or what do you do about that?
I've been mostly pretty fortunate. Like I've never had surgery. I fractured my nose 4 weeks before Worlds. That was unfortunate. That was like 2022.
Yeah, shit.
I split my head open before trials. So that was pretty lame. The rib thing. But again, it's like not a major thing, but like ribs suck to heal.
Yeah,
And you kind of really don't get surgery for ribs.
And your body's your asset in every sense of the word. So
Yeah.
that's fucking full on.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I mean, like I don't train at an intensity that's conducive to a lot of damage. But at the same time, things can happen, especially when you're trying to prepare for competitions. Like you have to try and get close to comp speed.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I do a fair bit of like lifting, conditioning, and stuff like this to try and accommodate for the wear and tear you take. I do all the right things to try and make sure that I'm in one piece. And yeah,
Fuck yeah. Controlled variables where possible.
trying.
Man, I honestly appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for coming out, man. It's been really cool. And we'll get a roll in.
Yeah,
It'll be
we're
fun.
gonna have a roll now, so let's see how that
That
turns
plays out.
Thank you, man.
Cheers, bro. Thank you again.
Woo!
Nice.
Woo!
Hell yeah, dude. Love your work, bro. Thank you.
Yeah.